I'm Sonia Pearce. I'm a senior lecturer in management, and this is the Business School, University of Technology, Sydney. This project is largely my PhD, as well as Australian Research Council grant project. With this instance, my work, Aboriginal women, how they get into business and how we can help them to get in business, but also how they can maintain that business and move forward. At the end of the day, it's about economic development, but it also, the underlying story, the underlying narrative here is self-determination. How we can break the chains of poverty in our communities. I believe these enterprises do that.
So I really don't know if I could actually say or give myself permission to say that being in business is in my genes, but my story goes back to my dad, who in the 1970s actually owned his own business. He owned a shoe repair business in Adelaide Street in Brisbane City.
Veronica started she always had harboured, nurtured, aspired to be a business person.
It is hard work, and that drive has meant lots of compromises. So compromises in, family holidays, paying for, because I've just put so much into the business, and it has been for me and for my kids. Single mum, I've got 2 teenage kids, but my kids are involved with the business a lot as well. But it has meant a lot of sacrifices.
For instance, you've seen Sharon Windsor. I first interviewed Sharon. She had a small shop across the road at Mount Druitt Station. Her mum was there helping her with the kids, and she was doing NAIDOC events and other Koori events. And then she's gone from that now to moving to a large shop front, factory front in Mudgee, and to winning New South Wales Business Person of the Year award.
Because I'm actually a fruit picker by trade. So I tell everybody I was born in the paddocks. So, and you name it and I've picked it, But I'm a fruit picker by trade, and I never came out of the paddocks until I was 30.
Kerry's story is very deadly. Kerry started here 25 years ago with myself at university, and just during that period she was talking about building her own company, and she actually went on, and she's one of the longest running Aboriginal business women owners in Australia.
But it's about people coming to me because they love the jewellery, like they want to buy it, It's not necessarily about you seeking approval or you hope it passes, or, so the whole dialogue changes when you're sitting in the driver's seat, so to speak.
Cleone. Cleone Quayle comes from a very strong community background. Her people from the southwest. She's Barkindji. Cleone started, as we know, she helped build our Aboriginal Women's Legal Service. She got a strong background in Aboriginal women's rights, and she still is a women's advocate. Cleone's story, particularly with her small business around jewellery making design, started because she's thinking of different ways to do things and being artistic. And this kind of thing happened in her family, doing jewellery, and it slowly built from that. And to somewhere now she's selling in 6 galleries around Australia, as well as exhibiting. So these stories are pretty precious.
This organisation, Black Sun Creative Arts, and they do beautiful pottery. And Kathy and I and Peter Mackenzie, and I was saying, oh, do you do beads? And they said, no, but we can, So even sharing each other's products, because they do such beautiful work, and I love to see them on my gum nuts, they just look absolutely amazing. So to actually know that product is pretty much 100% Aboriginal made, right down to the beads, I feel really a sense of pride doing that. Even buying the material off the women up in Northern Territory, that makes me feel real proud that you're supporting that community up there. But they're doing it. They've got their own social enterprise that they're trying to get up off the ground too.
We're just seeing a whole new wave of Indigenous entrepreneurs around this countryside, and I think we all should be really proud of that. Because very often we see really successful Indigenous people per se who are in the sporting industry, they're in the acting industry, there's some fantastic authors out there, etc., etc. A realisation happened for me when I was part of a US delegation through Supply Nation that went to go meet other Indigenous businesses in Colorado in the USA. And it was just really, and I met people like DJ there and yeah, just a whole heap of other Indigenous businesses. And I thought to myself, wow, this is really fantastic, because this is stuff that, it's almost like it's stuff that you've got to really see to believe. And it's actually real, where you've got people who are really passionate about wanting to pursue their businesses.
I'd worked in government departments for a while, and when I first started the business, I was actually working at Centrelink at Mount Druitt, and you know, working and putting money into the business and developing, and I just liked that idea of being able to educate people and bring people together with food. And my dad was a truck driver all his life and had his own business. He was, you know, a bit of a subcontractor to lots of other big companies. So sort of grew up with a little bit of knowledge of business, and I'd seen the struggles that he'd go through as well, being a truckie and sort of working for yourself. But there was just something that both my parents had sort of given me, was just to, if you believe in something strongly enough, then go for it and never give up. So I'd like the idea of being in business and being my own boss and doing what I love. So that's what's driven me.
I guess first and foremost, no matter how many enablers that you get or opportunities that you get, you're the one that's going to want to make the difference. If you don't want to make a difference, if you haven't got that little fire in your belly, you're never going to go forward, and you're never going to take any opportunities that look you in the eye. And I was really lucky. When I heard about that traineeship, you know, I wanted something different. You know, I tell everybody I'm really proud to be a cherry picker's daughter, and I'm really proud to come from the paddocks. But I wanted something different, you know. I didn't want this for my life, and I didn't want this for my for my daughters, and you know, my nephews and my nieces, and then eventually, you know, my grandkids. I wanted something different.
It was something that's not considered. I always felt, I come from a background, as well as teaching and being involved in education and training of some type of form for the last 30 years, I've always been interested in how we can break the chains of poverty. Because, you know, myself coming from a background in a poor family, a very large family, but how we can break that cycle, that nexus. And I've been thinking about it for a very long time. What are the things we can do to move towards that goal of self-determination?
This will be my third year now. The first 2 years I wasn't ahead, I was just covering costs. This is my third year. I'm breaking even just. So usually, like I said, I'll have a bit of money left over. Like before, I just had enough where I was just buying products all the time, and you know, any money I made I'd put back in and buy products again. This year I'm actually, you know, making a little bit more that I can put aside, and I've got the web page, so I'm starting to get there. I wouldn't say I'm, you know, swimming in it. I don't know if you do in social enterprising, and I don't really care if you're not, I suppose, because I'm not necessarily doing it about the money. You know, the money is nice to buy your products, you know, to sell again. So I suppose because I'm looking at it at a different angle, but I am at that just starting to break. And
Absolutely, it's not an easy decision, and that's why passion. You've got to be passionate about you've got to be passionate about this. And look, making money is a really good thing, but being passionate is what's going to drive you. Because at the end of the day, we all need to have some kind of fulfilment in our lives. There's something that's got to drive us besides the money factor. Although making money is a good thing. You know, we don't, in other words, we don't go into business not to make money. We all go into business to want to be able to pay our wages, to pay our rent, to pay our bills. But being passionate about that is what's really critical, I think.
Something that can change your life in feeling good about being able to provide for your kids, for your family, and that's what's really sort of empowered me, is being able to provide for my kids and provide a lifestyle for my kids that I couldn't have before. And yeah, it keeps that drive going, and because I love what I do, and more and more people are wanting to learn about, and it's not just bush tucker foods and natural products that people are wanting to come back to. People are wanting to know more about, you know, Aboriginal art, and there's such a growing need for it, and I reckon there's enough room out there for, you know, plenty more Aboriginal business, and the more there are in the industry, then we're going to be a stronger force out there to be reckoned with.
Look, my whole life's been a challenge, you know, and I think that any Aboriginal person can say that, you know, that nothing comes easy for us as Aboriginal people in one way, shape or form. You know, we face racism every single day of our lives in this country, you know, and those challenges are there for us, not only personally but professionally. And I've faced a lot of challenges, you know, surviving as cherry picker, surviving as a victim of domestic violence, surviving as a trainer, consultant, all that kind of stuff. But it has to be you that wants to make a difference, you know what I mean?
No. For me, these women are very inspirational because they've shared their story and they've shared their life with me as Aboriginal women. They've also don't stop sharing. Everything they've done, they do it in mind in keeping families together and keeping our communities together. That in itself is very powerful. Never once did they say to me, I'm doing it for myself. There was a point there, they do, but it's never their major priority. The major priority is that, you know, I'm doing this because I'm proud of myself and I'm proud of my culture and I want to help my people and my family in particular. They're very inspiring to me too because of what they have overcome to get to where they are.
Oh, well, my story is that I was carrying a lot of weight. I mean, I've still got weight to lose, and I've just lost 30 kilos. Now, that's what I'm talking about, your energy and caring for yourself and et cetera, et cetera. You know, I was caught up going to work all the time and just eating and eating and eating. I wasn't exercising. And now it's just, you just have to change your behaviour that helps you to actually give yourself more to your community, if that makes sense. And actually and it's just modelling behaviour. It's really hard to get out there and say to people that, you know, you need to have energy to get out there and be able to help your children and your families when we're not very energetic ourselves.
One of the main barriers is about presentation and all that. I still don't have a business card to this day because when I was making money, all your money either goes back to buying your products or paying for your products, or, you know, I paid for a website just recently. So you know that often people will, you know, if it's packaged beautifully and all that, you know that it'll probably sell higher. So because I don't have that, but that's fine. Like you find that you don't, I don't go in at the bull of the gate because I've got grandchildren to support. So you find whenever you get you're sort of scraping up all your money, and when you get a little bit more, you say, all right, I've got enough here to get the website up. So, you know, when I get a little bit more, you know, I'll go and get business cards done, and a little bit more, I wouldn't mind getting professional boxes and things like that done.
my mum has been a really, really big support because, you know, throughout the start of the business to now, I've gone through, you know, the loss of my first child, domestic violence, bad divorce, and, you know, loss of my father, and then, and still, you know, trying to keep the business going with my kids. So my mum has been a pretty solid rock there behind me.
Let me tell you about training. Yeah, as I told you before, I'm a trainer, and I trained for 22 years. I've trained Aboriginal culture, history and heritage in this country, and that was in the very beginning. And we're talking about 20 odd years ago. People didn't want to hear about Aboriginal people, didn't want to hear about Aboriginal culture, but the government was actually making them. You know, they were saying, you know, you've got to incorporate Aboriginal people in your positions and all that. So of course you've got to do training. And I've had people who actually I've been training and they actually want to slit my throat while I've been training them about Aboriginal culture. I had one group that I had, when I used the word invasion, the person actually chucked the pen at me. And didn't aim to hit me, but actually chucked the pen at me. And I've got to acknowledge though, but at the end of the second day, he actually came and apologised, and he said, you know, that he had to acknowledge that Australia was invaded.
Taking notice of other people, taking notice of the knockbacks, you know, when you approach different people and the closed doors in your face. But, you know, my dad and mum have always said, you know, never give up. You don't ever give up on anything. And I've seen my dad battle from, you know, old trucks to, you know, right through up to be able to buy a decent truck for himself and just keep battling along and never give up. And I think I've just grown up with that, and it's part and parcel of being a bit of a battler. And yeah, if I'd taken notice of a lot of people, but you know, I remember one person saying to me in an executive corporate company, saying to me, "Why would you even want to identify as being Aboriginal when you could pass as a white fella?" And those types of things just hit that nerve where I just think, you know, that's just so unacceptable these days. And why shouldn't I be proud of my Aboriginal culture? You know, I've got every right to be proud of my Aboriginal culture.
You know, I love the strength of women, you know, and I often have believed that women are the backbone to our communities, and they, to me, will be the ones that set about change. Though I have to admit I've met some pretty dynamic Aboriginal, non-Aboriginal people along the way too. So, I mean, with Global Sisters, it's about women helping women, you know, to make changes on the ground, and that women are a resource that's often not tapped into, because when people think of business owners, I'm sure the first thing they think about is men, you know. And I suppose it's about, well, hey, we can do it too, you know, but we can do it better, you know, because, and the reason I'm saying better is because I believe that women will often look at, you know, the big picture stuff on supporting community, supporting children, you know, supporting communities.
Look, I could tell you all the good things about business, and I could tell you all the terrible things about business. But I think what's important in the overall scheme of things is that we really have to give ourselves permission to learn, unlearn and relearn. Does that make sense? Because being in a business can be exciting, it can be thrilling. Even now as I'm sitting here, not bringing in much money today or this week, I might get a phone call next week that says, "Hey Veronica, we got this fantastic job for you over in WA." Or Veronica, we got this fantastic job with you doing this women's leadership up in the Northern Territory. So if you can hang on to those highs and those lows and work through that, then, you know, that's, to me, that's success. That's what, you know, that's what helps. But also, I hope that people can look and say, oh, well, if Auntie here can do it, then why can't I do it? And I think that's what really matters. We've got we're seeing entrepreneurs, business entrepreneurs now, getting in there and doing their thing, and that's a great thing because it just changes up the mix. It changes up the conversation. It changes up this whole Australia. And I think that's what our ancestors wanted us to do. I think our ancestors wanted us to get out there and be the best that we can be, because that's what they did for us. They died for us, hoping that we would go off and achieve what we have to do. And I think that's what success is for us individually, whether it's in business or it's whatever profession or wherever we want to go. It's about helping others. I think that's successful, is leading others.
You know, it is really hard to come from the paddocks, and especially as a mature age person, you actually got to rechange yourself. You actually redeveloping yourself or redesigning yourself, and that's what I had to do. I'll tell you a funny story. Do you know how I actually learnt to talk in front of people? I'll tell you, and I love this story. 2 Bacardis and a half at karaoke in Chinatown for 6 months. And I always say, Nancy Sinatra, hit your heart out, because these boots are made for walking, right? But that's how I learnt myself to get up and talk in front of people. Because I had to, because if I didn't do it, who was going to do it? And these are my words, and this is my heart and my passion.
Their tenacity. Nothing kept them down. I kept thinking of, when you have bushfire and it goes through and they've got the eucalypts, the gums, and the gums just spring again. When the rain comes, that image always comes to my mind when I think of these women. Nothing. Not even the bushfire would stop them, because they're so strong and passionate about what they want to do and how they want to do it.